Hello, I'm Ian Currey and this is Thinking Out Loud. Last time we talked about all the jobs that are available right now, help wanted. But there was a time when I was a small boy when exactly the opposite problem existed. There were no jobs, none at all. So people resorted to every kind of thing you can think of to make a living. Come on, let me tell you what I think. Hello. As I travel around, flying here and there, I often stay in towns and cities that you probably wouldn't think of visiting. I usually try to find out something about the places we stay, and if we're there long enough, I explore a little. Most towns, here in America anyway, have a railway running through them, and occasionally our hotels can overlook a rail yard or perhaps even a railway station. And of course then I make sure I have a room with a view of the tracks. Now that's usually quite easy because mostly people don't want a view of railway tracks, they want to see something else. Recently I was watching a very long train rumble slowly past my room while I was drinking a nice cup of coffee when I noticed someone sitting in one of the wagons. There he was, with his rucksack propped behind him and his feet sticking out over the edge. He was enjoying the evening sun. Now, I'm sure he wasn't supposed to be there. And I'm also sure if the railway authorities had seen him, they would have highly frowned on him. And I'm sure he would have been in all kinds of trouble. But off he went into the night to who knows where. What fun. You ever thought of doing something like that? I have. I'll admit to riding on top of a banana train from a port where it had been loaded into town a few miles away rather than walk, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's very dangerous, but it's tons of fun too. I wondered who the man was. Why was he riding a freight train like that? Well, where was he going? Well, that part I knew. He was going wherever the train was going. Sounds exciting, doesn't it? Now, growing up in the south of England, a couple of hours on a train would have always put you in London. So riding freight trains was hardly going to be a thing. And besides, most of our freight was coal. So I don't think that would have been quite the same at all. One day, up the street came a similar looking man with a horse and cart. I was a small boy and hadn't seen him before. He was moving very slowly and calling out, "Any old iron, any old iron." And I asked my dad who that was. And he said, "Oh, that's the rag and bone man." "Well, what's a rag and bone man?" I asked. They were actually quite common when I was a small boy. And they would collect just about anything you wanted to get rid of, and I assume they sold it on to scrap merchants. Yes, rag and bone were collected, and recycling was indeed much more of a thing back then, even more than it is now perhaps. But my dad wasn't content to say, "Oh, that's the rag and bone man, he's collecting old things to sell." No, that would be far too simple. Instead, the rag and bone man got a name, Junko. And he had a dog too, called Paintbox. And stories would get told at bedtime for years to come about Junko and Paintbox. Now, mostly the stories were about Paintbox and how he would work out what his things were that his master had brought home and how they worked. But that's a video series that one day I'll have to make just to tell the stories, isn't it? Maybe. Junko was actually very rich and was one day going to be king in the faraway place he lived. For there, in that magical place, the rich were poor and the poor were rich. Junko would take the old clothes and other items he collected to his faraway city, and there they were frightfully valuable. Old clothes were seen as treasures, and younger people would beg their parents to get them clothes that had holes in them. Who would have thought such a thing? This topsy-turvy world always caught our imagination as children. Can you imagine a place where rich people are poor and poor people are rich, and young people want clothes with holes in them? Long after, the rag and bone man would always stop at our house, especially as he passed by, because at our house, Mum would invite him in for a cup of tea and Dad would chat with him, and he'd always find him something that we didn't need anymore to give him. Though I have a strange feeling that we really did need most of the things that they found to give to Junko, and he would put them in his cart. My brother liked his horse, but I always looked for Paintbox the dog. But, well, I don't think I ever actually saw him. Do you remember last week we stumbled across this part of the Bible? Teach those who are rich in this world not to be proud and not to trust in their money, which is so unreliable. Their trust should be in God, who richly gives us all we need for our enjoyment. Tell them to use their money to do good. They should be rich in good works and generous to those in need, always ready to share with others. Well, that part had me thinking about Junko and Paintbox all week long. The real Junko, way back in my childhood, was probably not going to be king and certainly wasn't rich. Or was he? He had a simple lifestyle, met all kinds of people along the way. While there was no jobs to be found at all, not at that time, Junko had found a way to make a living. He knew where to find a lovely cup of tea at our house, and kind people around town looked after him with a sandwich or two. Earlier in the year, there had been a family of eagles living close to the lake here. They're gone now, but they're very majestic, and they soar high up into the air, then swoop effortlessly back to their perch in the trees. I knew the Bible talked about eagles, so I decided to take a look. I was sure it'd be a lovely encouragement or something to soar high and effortlessly. But this is what I found, and it fits right in with our story today. Don't wear yourself out trying to get rich. Be wise enough to know when to quit. In the blink of an eye, wealth disappears, for it will sprout wings and fly away like an eagle. Well, that doesn't sound very good, does it? Working all our lives to get rich, then finding it fly away to who knows where. But, you know, there was something to my dad's stories. Counting wealth as if counting coins isn't at all how it really works, is it? Okay, so we all need to earn enough to pay the bills, but beyond that, what is the true purpose of gaining masses of extra wealth at the expense of living life to the full? Last week too, we saw that true godliness with contentment is itself great wealth. That word there, contentment, is so important, isn't it? Can you be content with what you have? Oh, it's fine to strive for more and be the best you can be and all that. But are you content along the way too? What makes you truly happy? Money? No? Or is it following the truths that God put in place and finding contentment sitting down for a nice cup of tea with your Junko as he travels through your life? I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. And if you have, why not subscribe so that you don't have trouble finding the next one? The next video will come along. Don't worry. Certainly, pass these videos on to your friends and let me know if you'd like to hear some of the stories of Junko and Paintbox. You never know. I might just have to tell them to you. Until next time. Goodbye.